I'm Ted Miguel, professor of economics here at Berkeley and the faculty director of BITS. What I want to do in the next half hour or so is just walk you through some of our activities, give you an overview of what BITS has been up to, what some of our accomplishments have been over the last year, but also some of our plans and goals for the coming year, just to start a conversation around certain projects, and you know, I think these conversations will continue on throughout the day today and tomorrow. So just as a starting point for people kind of new to the research transparency or open science space, what motivated a bunch of us here, some of us here at Berkeley, many more in other institutions, to establish BITS about 5 years ago, was our concern about the state of research in the social sciences, about the quality of evidence, about the reliability of evidence. There's what people have called a credibility crisis in science overall. It's something that's touched so many of our research fields, including my own field of economics, medicine, political science, etc. And this crisis really takes many different forms. There's a concern that many influential results in our fields may not be reproducible, that findings that we teach, that we learn, that shape our thinking, that shape public policy, may be based on quite flimsy evidence. And there are a lot of potential reasons why the evidence base isn't as solid as we would like. One possible reason why there is this problem has to do with what we call specification searching. People call it p-hacking, researcher degrees of freedom. Basically, the idea being that researchers tend to emphasize and are drawn to findings that they find advantageous in some way, that they think editors will like, so they'll be able to publish them, that they think donors or governments will like, rather than just presenting the evidence as it is. And this is, I think, a pervasive problem in many fields, and I think the fact that it goes by so many different names in different fields just suggests how widespread a concern it is. A related issue is concerns over publication bias, that even if researchers aren't doing anything to sort of manipulate their results, consciously or subconsciously, that journal editors favor certain types of results. Maybe results that go against conventional wisdom in a field never get published. Maybe results that challenge authority figures in the field never get published. So this is another closely related concern. Of course, part of the reason why some specification searching may go on, maybe because researchers are anticipating publication bias and biased decision making among editors. So these phenomena kind of exist in equilibrium with each other. And a third related point is the so-called file drawer problem. The fact that people sometimes work on research projects, conduct analyses, and never end up getting papers published, again, because they anticipate having trouble publishing unusual results or unexpected results or null results. So these are all problems that are interrelated, but taken together make us question and sort of scratch our heads about the quality of evidence in our research field. And I think that's part of why a lot of us are interested in these topics and we're here and we work on these issues, is because of what we've seen in our own fields about how pervasive some of these problems are. So what is BITS? BITS was founded about 5 years ago, and we've grown steadily since then and taken on more activities. What BITS does is try to become part of the solution. BITS aims to fundamentally change norms around research practices and build a new consensus among scholars around practices that are objectively more scientific and better for credible inference than what we typically see today in our fields today. And the goal of our attempt to build consensus and change norms comes through meetings like this one, where scholars get together, discuss, debate. Actually, we're going to have a debate and a discussion next about an issue of related to research transparency. But it goes beyond just holding meetings and having these kinds of conversations. BITS is also a group that develops tools and resources to shed light on these problems, to spread the word about these issues. BITS also carries out a large number of different educational activities and training activities, and I'll discuss a few of them here today. And I think in many ways, our educational mission in BITS has become really a heart of what we do as an initiative. BITS also works in funding research and helping to shape particular research projects, and I'll mention some of those as well. And finally, BITS has taken on the role of awarding prizes to scholars who really embody our highest ideals around open science and research transparency. And again, today we're going to play that role again with the awarding of Lima Rosenthal prizes for open social science. And I'll come back to that later on in the talk today. So let me start with a couple of highlights to give you, to step away from the sort of 30,000-foot view and give you some specifics about what BITS has been up to and what we plan to do in the coming year. So edge of work on research transparency topics and open science topics. And really, there's a lot of different forms that this research has taken, the research that's been funded. Overall, we've received scores of applications. We've ended up funding 22 projects competitively. And they're very high quality projects, very exciting. A number of SMART recipients are here in the room. Some scholars are working on issues of basic statistical methodology that is important for research transparency. Others are focusing more on the implementation or doing research on the implementation of particular practices, research transparency practices. So there really is a wide range of topics. The work that has been funded so far has resulted in at least 11 papers being produced, and others are on the way. These 11 papers have been posted on the BITS preprint series. So depending on the field, in economics we call unpublished papers working papers. In other fields they're called preprints. BITS has a preprint series. Any of you doing research on research transparency topics, which many of you in the room are, please approach us about potentially posting your working paper in the BITS preprint series. The 11 preprints from SMART funded projects have been downloaded an average of 300 times off the BITS preprint site. So they're getting a lot of attention, a lot of traffic, and we certainly want to make the BITS preprint series the go-to place. So you can go there and see, soon dozens, scores, hundreds of papers on these topics. A number of exciting projects have come out of SMART grants. The Vivalt and Coville study, which this is just to give you a sense of the kind of range of topics that SMART has funded, funding issues about false positives and how credible positive results are or significant results are. This has been actually pretty influential work in shaping certain policies around pre-analysis plans and elicitation of prior beliefs within the World Bank. So this is research that's actually starting to have a policy impact. The Berlig, Prionis, and Wolfram panel data and experimental design piece is more of a statistical methodology piece that aims to assist researchers in computing appropriate statistical power calculations, even in complex panel data designs. So a very useful tool to use. And the Lens and Son piece focuses on a kind of classic issue around research transparency, which is the role that selective use of covariates in regression analysis can play in driving statistical significance, and actually demonstrating that lots of published results in leading political science journals may not be robust to some tweaks of the covariate set. So very kind of core topics you can see are being funded by SMART. This is just 3 out of 22, and we're hoping to raise more funding for the SMART program so folks doing cutting edge work in this area continue getting the support they need to advance the agenda. So this is It's just an example of one of BITS's research activities. Another major part of what BITS has been up to in the last year, and really over the last few years, is carrying out training courses on research transparency. We've carried out a number of them as sort of summer institutes here in Berkeley the last, I think, 4 years. And you can see here there was over 100 applicants to our recent training course, about 50 learners in the course. So we're reaching large numbers of folks. And I see a number of people in the room that actually participated in some of these training courses. So the sort of Berkeley site has really been active in terms of training courses, but we've actually expanded beyond Berkeley. We had a training course, an international training course in Europe, in London, just a couple months ago, again with several dozen learners. There were a lot of applicants for the course, and a number of BITS affiliates in Europe actually carried the load in terms of the training course. So again, the network has really started growing. There's been a lot of interest globally in these courses. The training courses in Berkeley and in London are multi-day courses, very intense, sort of all-day lectures, workshops, hands-on activities to help graduate students, postdocs, young scholars, even some mid-career scholars gain the tools they need to be open social scientists. And I think that actually a number of people who have taken part in the trainings then have gone on to apply for SMART grant awards and take part in other BITS activities as well. One of the sort of new activities over the last year, and one of the things we're very happy about, is a new massive open online course that BITS launched this past year with FutureLearn, which is a UK-based online platform. It's called Transparent and Open Social Science Research. And we didn't know exactly what to expect when the first course run took place over the summer. We thought maybe a few hundred people might be interested in it. It turned out there were 1,200 folks who enrolled in the course. About 400 were called active learners. Basically, the platform gauges how often you're actually watching videos and doing homework. So there are about 400 folks who were active learners. So it really gives you a sense of how these online approaches can get you to scale very quickly. So we're very happy about that. For folks who missed this last course run, who were interested in it for themselves, who are maybe interested in it for their students or members of their lab, the next course run is in January. It goes for about 5 weeks, and it covers 8 major topics on research transparency and reproducibility. There's also homeworks and assignments. Part of the reason they do these course runs is so students taking the course can interact in discussion groups and interact with each other. So it's a really great experience, and hopefully some of you can check it out. And I think, let me see if I'm able to show you what it looks like. I'll have to drag this over. Hold on. Yeah, so this is basically if you click on the link, we'll share these slides. It'll take you to the FutureLearn page. It's very easy to enroll, and there's Berkeley. And it basically covers these major topics in open science and research transparency. So we definitely encourage you to consider taking the course. Let me see if I can drag this back. All right. Okay. Another new part of BITS's activities over the past couple years has been our expansion of what we call our Catalyst network. So BITS is fundamentally a network of researchers interested in open social science. We are grassroots, we are ground up, and the Catalyst network is really like the sort of embodiment of the network. It makes it real, it makes it tangible. What Catalysts do is they take the material they've learned in a training course online, they develop their own material, and BITS provides funding for them to teach a course or a workshop or develop some modular teaching materials for their home institution. So it's a way to keep spreading the message and the tools and the principles of open science beyond what BITS could do or a couple other groups could do on their own with our own training courses. So we're really excited about the interest in the Catalyst network. There have been so many folks eager to sort of take the message forward. There are now 100 catalysts. We just reached 100 catalysts in 29 countries. You can see the countries on the map here where the catalysts have been active. Again, carrying out workshops, seminars, etc. We have another map of just the U.S. So we have catalysts in a couple dozen states in the U.S., also actively working in many different institutions. So the amount of excitement and energy and interest around these topics just continues to grow, and BITS is just so grateful to be able to be part of this, this change and provide funding to allow people to carry these ideas and methods to their home institution. So again, just a couple of details about the program. Just in the past year, there's been quite a bit of support, a few $100,000 of support, and reaching several thousand learners directly through these training courses. And again, a very wide range of countries have now had BITS Catalyst courses or workshops in Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, etc. One catalyst actually down at UC San Diego developed some online modular course materials that are you can access here through this link. So again, we're really building up, helping to build up the sort of teaching materials in this area as well. Okay, another new development in the field, just to kind of give you a sense of what BITS has been up to and start conversations and brainstorming really about what BITS should be doing next. We've made some progress in advancing a new type of article format called a registered report. Some of you may be familiar with registered reports from either psychology journals or neuroscience journals. They do exist in some fields. There's never been, to our knowledge, registered reports in economics. And I think there's only a handful in a few other fields. Maybe in political science there have been a few pilots of registered reports or cases. A registered report is different than a regular article submission. What an author does, if you're not familiar with registered reports, is they submit an article to a journal laying out their research questions, laying out their research design, laying out the data they plan to use and the tests that they plan to run. But they do that before they have access to the data, before they've run any analysis. So it's a lot like a pre-analysis plan, but even more fleshed out. And journals then evaluate these submissions based on the quality of the question, the design, the data, but without knowing how the results will turn out. So the point of this is to get around the problem of publication bias and specification searching that I mentioned up front. If editors can judge a paper or a project on design and data and question and not sort of ding it because it gets unusual results or not want to publish it because it goes against conventional wisdom, that's a step forward for science. There's going to be less suppression of new types of results, hopefully, with this kind of article format. So once it's submitted, it goes through a refereeing process, and the articles get some sort of conditional acceptance. They then go back, get the data, analyze it, submit the paper, but the editor has committed not to base publication based on whether you get a significant result or not, but just based on, again, the quality of the data and the design. Of course, between when you submit the registered report to a journal and when you actually submit it, there could be a breakdown in data collection, there could be a coup in the country you're doing research in, there could be a problem in the lab. You may never end up writing it up, or the data could look different, and then there's a chance for the editor and the author to have a conversation about sort of how close you need to be to the original submission to be published. But these are the sorts of details that are already being worked out in psychology and neuroscience, and we need to start the conversation around them in economics. That's what BITS has been pushing for, and we actually have forged a partnership for a pilot effort to allow registered report submissions in the Journal of Development Economics, a major journal in our field, starting in the first quarter of 2018. So if you are working in international development in some way, shape, or form, and you're interested in taking part in this submission process to be published, the plan is to be published in the full-on JDE, Journal of Development Economics. Keep your eyes open, be in touch with BITS. We're going to be publicizing it when the submission link goes live and you're able to submit a registered report to the Journal of Development Economics, but it's something we've been working on over the last year, and very excited to try to bring a new article format that has all of these conceptual advantages into economics. And again, we've been learning very much through the BITS network from other fields that have already had this article format. And that's really one of the advantages of the BITS network, is this communication across disciplines. I wouldn't have even heard of registered reports if were it not for BITS, and were it not for meetings like this and conversations with colleagues in different fields. Okay, so let me talk a little bit more about the agenda for today and then the agenda for tomorrow. The meeting this year really has incredibly high quality speakers and presenters. I'm so excited for the next day and a half. After my intro talk here, we're going to be turning to a keynote panel discussing what we call the strength of evidence and statistical significance thresholds, a discussion with 3 distinguished speakers whom I'll introduce in a few minutes when we launch the panel. Some of you may have heard over the last few months about the debate over p-values and what the appropriate threshold for statistical significance should be. There's advocates for lowering the p-value threshold. Some of them are here today. They're advocates for maybe retaining the threshold or abandoning the threshold, and different perspectives in between. It's created quite a stir in academic debate and also in the popular media. So it's very exciting to have some of the leading scholars in this discussion here today. Our plan for this panel is each of the speakers will sort of give their take on the issue, but then we're going to open it up for conversation and discussion with all of you as interested parties in this discussion, as researchers or aspiring researchers, to see what kind of consensus we can all reach, if any, during the conversation. We'll follow that panel with a coffee break, and then move on to our second panel called Institutionalizing Research Transparency. We're also incredibly honored to have representatives of several large organizations, many of them leading funders in the international economic development space, here to discuss their progress and challenges in incorporating research transparency practices into their own work, into their own research groups, into their own dissemination. There's a lot that we have developed for, mainly by and for academic researchers that's just highly applicable to policy-oriented researchers and researchers in development banks. We're going to have a discussion about that today, followed by the awarding of the Leamer-Rosenthal prizes for open social science. Again, people who have been at our annual meetings the last couple of years have heard about all the inspiring work being done by Leamer-Rosenthal prize recipients. These are really folks at the frontier of these topics, developing new methods, teaching us new facts, developing new ways to teach the material, and we're just delighted to be able to have a number of the Leamer-Rosenthal winners here today for this award. And I should also mention that Ed Leamer is here today. He's actually sitting in the middle table right over there. This prize is named for Ed and his pioneering work starting 35 years ago that really changed the debate in economics and planted the seeds for the kind of progress that we're making today on research transparency and open science. At the end of the day today, we're going to turn to a reception. I think just in the back of this room, there'll be some refreshments, and maybe we can just keep the conversations going that were started by the hopefully thought-provoking panels today. Okay, tomorrow's agenda, hopefully most of you can stick around for tomorrow. Tomorrow is broken down into 4 different research sessions. Each of the sessions has 2 or 3 presentations, and these are presentations of new research. Some of them are research that was funded through the SMART program, others are catalysts, others are not BITS funded in any way. But these are just leading scholars coming up with, basically presenting to us their new research in the area. The first session focuses on publication bias, one of these core topics in the field, and the challenges around addressing this issue. The second session has to do with data sharing and trying to understand maybe the benefits of data sharing, the costs of data sharing, what limitations there might be to data sharing, another key part of transparency. The third session is more methods focused, and we'll dive into new tools that many of us in the room who are mainly doing quantitative social science research or related research could use in our own work. And the fourth session will dive into further discussion on this very important issue of researcher degrees of freedom, p-hacking, specification searching. Again, one really core area. So again, I haven't listed every individual paper or author here, but in each of these sessions there are 2 or 3 papers that will be discussed. There'll be presentation, open discussion. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about the BITS meetings the last 3-4 years is the last session, this closing discussion. What we'll do for, hopefully most of you will still be able to stick around, is take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long it takes, to brainstorm as a research community and as a research network useful directions for the coming year. What are the things that BITS or affiliated groups or just researchers in general should be doing to advance an open social science agenda? Where are we falling short? So it's a really fun way to reflect on a day and a half of exciting talks, think about the gaps, and sort of plot a way forward as well.